Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, folks. There's a lot happening in Washington, D.C. right now because a Senate parliamentarian has essentially said that minimum wage cannot be included in the fast track legislation that the Democrats are attempting. They cannot include minimum wage in the budget legislation, and the White House has indicated that they will abide by that, they will respect that, and they are not going to contest it. But it looks like the Democrats have had a plan B all along. In this video, I'll share the incredible plan B that will actually incentivize small businesses to pay their workers higher wages and get this, provide penalties of 5% penalties, hammer large businesses with a 5% penalty if they don't pay their workers a certain minimum wage. This is pretty incredible, folks. A plan B from the Democrats originating right now as we speak. I'll give you all the details, and I'll also give you an indication of whether this is likely to go forward, including responses from Chuck Schumer just now, as well as responses from the White House. This, everyone, is breaking news from Ignition Time. So, everybody, according to brand new information that was released by Bloomberg, the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, she ruled yesterday that the wage increase as proposed, the $15 an hour minimum wage as increase, did not qualify for budget reconciliation. Remember, budget reconciliation is a fast track legislative procedure that the Democrats are attempting in order to try and include minimum wage increases as part of the $1.9 trillion package. And she said that's simply not going to fly. So, guess what the Democrats did? The Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden today proposed a tax on big companies' payroll costs, and that would be 5% punishment if any of their workers, I quote, earn less than a certain amount. And Bernie Sanders is supporting this as well. So here's something interesting. So keep in mind that Ron Wyden is the Senate Finance Committee Chairman, and he, along with the Senate Budget Committee Chairman, our best friend Bernie Sanders, both have floated this measure, which would actually increase taxes on large companies if they don't pay their workers a certain minimum wage. Now I'm waiting for information as to what that number is, but here's what's super interesting. They want to attach this to the stimulus bill as a way to indirectly get minimum wage, as a way to provide a penalty to companies that don't pay that wage, and as a way to indirectly force companies to pay a higher minimum wage. Again, this is because of what the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough said yesterday, essentially killing the chances of minimum wage in the bill. If you've been following my channel, I've been saying for a long time that I didn't think minimum wage had a chance of making it in this proposal. So hopefully you've been following our channel. And this is what Senator Ron Wyden said of his tax hike idea. He said, I quote, "While conversations are continuing, I believe this plan B provides us a path to move forward and get this done through the reconciliation process." Pretty interesting, folks. And again, what this would do is this would hit big companies with a penalty of 5% of their total payroll costs, which means, let's say a company has a total payroll cost of, I don't know, $5 million because they have, I don't know, let's just say 100 employees. This would be 5% of the payroll cost that would, again, start at 5%, and it would actually increase over time if workers earn less than a certain amount. Think about that, guys. A tax on companies, that would increase over time if they don't pay their workers a certain amount. Boy, that gotta tell you, that is some out of the box thinking right there. And there would also be, I quote, safeguards to prevent companies from trying to outsource labor to avoid paying living wages. So they would actually try and prevent companies from outsourcing what they do to overseas companies. And Wyden did not specify whether it would be big companies or large companies, but it's fair to assume that this would be large companies. And he said, and he said this, for the smallest of small businesses, we'll provide a benefit with an income tax credit equal to 25% of wages, up to $10,000 a year per employer, to those that paid their workers the highest wages. Which means, let's say you own a small local business. Okay, you could potentially get what Senator Ron Wyden calls an income tax credit equal to 25% of your wages. So let's say your wages are $40,000, and again the limit is up to $10,000. So 25% of $40,000 is $10,000. So in this case, the employer would get a $10,000 income tax credit. So they would essentially save $10,000 instead of paying income taxes to the government. But what's super interesting is if they hire more employees, they'll end up paying more payroll taxes. They'll end up paying more into Social Security, Medicare. So that's a pretty interesting, interesting approach there. Now, many businesses, including the Chamber of Commerce and International Franchise Association, have criticized these moves. Now, what is even more interesting is that Chuck Schumer actually spoke on the floor of the Senate today, and he was open to, folks, this is important. He was open to potentially increasing the taxes. And what he said, Chuck Schumer said, was that this is something that they were looking at, and he is considering adding a penalty tax on big companies in order to try and push forward with an indirect form of minimum wage. And he said he would be looking at adding a provision that would provide, again, penalties to large companies that don't pay workers at least $15 an hour, according to a Democratic aide who spoke to Bloomberg. So this is an alternative, if you will. And folks, here's what's even more interesting: the White House is not ready. The White House is not ready to embrace this plan. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was pretty interesting what she said. She said that the administration didn't have a position on the proposals about taxes on big companies if they don't enact a minimum wage hike. And keep in mind that Bernie Sanders and Ron Wyden did have these initiatives in the past 24 hours. And here's what Jen Psaki said: "We have not yet reviewed as of this time their proposal. We are committed to finding the best path forward to increase minimum wage, and that will require a number of conversations with leaders in Congress and members who are committed to the issue moving forward." So, folks, this is where things stand right now as far as the minimum wage is concerned, and it looks like this could potentially make or break the stimulus bill, because the Democrats are absolutely keen on making sure that this happens. Pretty incredible, folks. Let me know in the comment section below about your thoughts regarding the Democrats pushing for this minimum wage indirectly by levying a penalty on large companies who don't pay $15 an hour, and by incentivizing small businesses who pay their workers the highest wages by giving them a tax credit, which should result in an increase in livable wages for all employees. Pretty incredible out of the box proposal. It looks like they had a plan B all along, because they knew minimum wage could have been struck down. I did report this on my channel. I thought that minimum wage would be struck down primarily because the conservative Democrat Joe Manchin, and primarily from West Virginia, and primarily because Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona had said she was opposed to $15 an hour. So I knew that was going to end up on the chopping block. But this plan B to try and attempt an indirect minimum wage increase, not through a federal mandate, but through an indirect tax on companies to incentivize them to pay more, is a very interesting way forward. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me. I would appreciate that. A lot of effort goes into this channel. So if you do that, that would mean a lot to me. It helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.